Hello, I'm Darren Slack with NFA's QB Cast, your weekly prep talk podcast designed to help you set your thermostat and to prepare you to play your best on game day. It's week 10 here at QB Cast, and we're 2 episodes away from closing up our 2015 season of motivational talks. And we're going to transition to an off-season training and current news format to inspire ongoing development as parents, players, and as coaches. As we approach the end of the season, for many, we're challenged with the need to maximize serving, manage, shutdown. Now let's talk about maximizing serving first, specifically servant leadership. In my opinion, there's no greater need than servant leadership at this point in the season. Whether you're headed for the playoffs or trying to salvage a season that didn't go the way you wanted, leadership motivated by serving is the key. Serving is the call of every aspiring leader. There's no real, authentic leadership without it. Many mistake leadership as dictating the actions of others, but that isn't the whole story. You see, true servant leadership has its roots in the character of those willing to keep their promise to their teammates, to their families, or to their business colleagues. Being up front, being in charge, being the boss, being the shot caller is nothing more than envisioning others by providing consistent consideration, decisive passion, and an unwavering example. These things are best done not from a posture of superiority to others, but an attitude of service of others. Let's discuss how servant leadership provides consistent consideration, decisive passion, and an unwavering example. First up, consistent consideration. Telling someone what to do is easy, but getting them to want to do it, something you need done as well or better than you would do it, requires getting buy-in. Getting them to emotionally invest. In order to achieve buy-in or get that complete investment in the work, the servant leader must engage the person they wish to inspire on a deeper level than an action item list or a motivational lecture. They must make them feel important. People want to be inspired and appreciated in their passion for what they do. And the best leaders who provide consistent consideration of those around them make them feel important. See, they do this by learning what motivates and matters to their teammates and coaches, and they deliver it. You need to study what people like, what they need to hear, what they want to do, and like to receive, and then provide it. It's often the smallest, seemingly insignificant things important to the team and the coaches that the best servant leaders provide. Emotionally unstable, selfish, and frustrated leadership that demands unreasonable outcomes without consideration of others demoralizes teammates and irritates coaches, and it isn't helpful. Now, as you're coming down to the end of your season, think about what you can do to show consideration for your teammates and your coaches. Watch for needs to be met. Look for opportunities to encourage. Do the job no one wants to do. Step up when everyone else wants to sit down, and you'll have taken the first step to servant leadership. The next evidence of a servant leader is decisive passion. There's something compelling about a person who's not high maintenance emotionally, that doesn't look to others to do things to make their life easier, doesn't expect people to wait on them, and is able to act decisively. As we discussed in an earlier QB cast, maturity is evidenced in proper decision-making in all facets of life. The young man who seems to effortlessly function productively and decisively in uncomfortable but inconvenient and difficult pressure situations in games, practice, and in life is said to have great poise. Anyone who does that would have great poise. It's the quarterback with ice water in his veins. It's the guy whose heart thermostat seems broken because it always reads 68 and breezy. He leads with passion and fearlessness because he's already answered the most basic question confronting football players, and quite frankly, people in every walk of life. Am I hurt or injured? We could play hurt, but if we're injured, we need to stop. However, many young men who aren't prepared to deal with the pain that this game, practice, or life throws at them hesitate. They aren't sure they can handle it. Their pain threshold isn't high enough to hold on against the onslaught of adversity. They can't play hurt. Every day, every man, woman, and child plays hurt emotionally, financially, personally, spiritually, and physically. We all endure pain differently, and as it's been said before, life is pain. Anyone who tells you different is trying to sell you something. The willingness to absorb pain is directly connected to the level of passion you possess for what you're doing and who you do it for. If you lack passion, you will not be decisive in adversity. You'll falter. You'll be tentative. You won't be able to play hurt. Passion has considered the cost and declared itself willing to pay the price. Passio, the Latin root of the word passion, literally means to suffer. But a deeper study of the word reveals the motivation for suffering is love. Not just a love for what is being done, but who you're doing it for. This is why the word passion has a religious connotation when you study it as the passion or sufferings of Christ. He suffered for his followers because he loved them. You see, Passio asks a simple question. What are you willing to suffer or endure for those you claim to love in your life? This is the legacy of decisive passion in a servant leader. They are willing to do what others will not and endure what others will not so that others get what they need, even if it hurts. The final measure of a servant leader is their unwavering example. It's the most appealing aspect of their leadership. They never ask someone to do something they haven't already done or aren't just as willing to do themselves. They don't ask others to do what they aren't wanting to do. They take the hardest jobs and leave the easier ones for those on the team. They don't fear hard work or the tasks that others avoid. They don't calculate who does the most work because they know they will be doing the most and it doesn't bother them. They care about getting the task finished so the team can benefit. They demonstrate their love through their willingness and their work ethic. There's no tentativeness in rolling up their sleeves and lending a hand. And the servant leader always seems tireless in their willingness to step up and do their part. Often they don't seem real in their sacrifice because their sacrifice is so significant. Critical people assume there has to be an ulterior motive driving them, simply because the critical people have an ulterior motive driving them. What they don't understand is the unbridled power of love when it's released in a young man for what he's doing and who he's doing it for. When the servant leader taps into why he's doing what he's doing, and that reason is love, you will not exhaust his passion. Won't happen. However, those whose motivation isn't servant leadership and they don't love who they're serving and who haven't decided if they can play hurt will have to learn how to manage shutdown. Shutdown is my word to describe the athlete whose motivation for contributing to the team and its highest good is gone. All that positive sentiment that drove the early season efforts to work hard, help the team, and appreciate their teammates is depleted. This can happen as a result of a failed season, broken relationships and offenses, unmet expectations, significant immaturity, or just plain selfishness. Regardless, shutdown in an athlete at this point in the season is an all too common battle coaches and teammates must fight. It can spread quickly like a virus because when one athlete decides it's no longer worth it to give his best, it doesn't take much to convince others to give up the fight as well. These are guys that coaches know are going through the motions in practice and quitting on big play opportunities in games. These are the guys with detailed excuses and blame shift on anyone but themselves. They have no concept of taking personal responsibility for their actions, and they deceive themselves into thinking that despite the fact that they're a contributing member of the team, they're not at fault whatsoever for the team's failure. They talk themselves out of any responsibility. They're combative, disrespectful, and easily irritated when confronted. They've completely justified their angry feelings by fine-sounding arguments and offenses towards everyone. Unfortunately, they don't realize that most of the guys around them don't get their beef, and they're tired of their whining and complaining like they're the only one that's going through adversity. The team just has to put up with it. Everyone suffers on a team, but the guy who is shut down cannot contain his emotions or his tongue. He makes a fool of himself and others through his lack of self-restraint, and he embarrasses the coaches, the program, and his teammates. He will openly criticize everyone, rebuff teammates who try to help, and challenge anyone who confronts him. At this point, when shutdown goes public like that, this athlete has become a cancer to the team that needs to be cut out by the coaching staff. Normally, shutdown in a vocal or selfish player is obvious and it's a pain to deal with, but it's pretty easy to spot. However, it doesn't start that way, and this is a very important concept to consider. Shutdown that goes public starts in an undisciplined heart and mind. It allows bad attitudes to fester until they must be heard. It's the perfect storm of immaturity, emotionalism, and selfishness revealed for all to see. Now, if you're nodding your head right now and agreeing with me because you know players like this, but think you can never be this way, we need to be careful. Every player, coach, and parent is susceptible to shutdown. It doesn't have to be public. It can show up in the car on the way home with ranting about a lack of playing time, poor coach decision-making, or play calls. It could show up in pulling up in conditioning instead of pushing ourselves on each rep. It can manifest in slanderous talk about players and coaches in the locker room, at the tailgate party, or even in the bleachers. Listen, shutdown is our unwillingness to continue to play hurt for our team or for our program. We aren't willing to endure any more suffering for those we once claimed to love in our program. Now, I'm not suggesting that everything has to be happy and upbeat and perfect, but the servant leader has to defeat shutdown at the seed level. You have to filter frustration, pain, and adversity through your passion to remember why you were committed in the first place. Shutdown forgets its why. Passio focuses on the why. Shutdown gives up. Passio goes on. Shutdown feels sorry for itself. Passio forgets self and serves. Everyone experiences pain and the temptation to shut down, especially now when things may not be ending as you hope they would. But we don't have to give in. We can manage shutdown with 3 simple weapons: forgiveness, gratefulness, and encouragement. Forgive those who hurt you. No one woke up one day and decided to hurt your feelings. Everyone is trying to fulfill their dream and purpose for their lives, and sometimes they collide with yours along the way. You have no problem with players hitting you on a football field. That's the game, you say. Well, people will hit you in life. You don't lay there and cry about it on the football field. Quit doing it in your life. Take the shot, pop up, forgive, and go back to work. Even if it appears they do it on purpose. You don't let whacked football players in your head. Stop letting whacked people reset your thermostat. Forgive and get back to 68 and breezy. Be grateful. It requires you to stop looking for what people do wrong and catch them doing right. It's a better approach to this game and life, and frankly, people really appreciate being appreciated. Finally, when you're grateful, you'll see opportunities to do the third one, and that's to encourage others. To encourage means to put courage in someone by reminding others how they're better than us. We put courage in them to fight their own battles against shutdown. If you're busy forgiving, being grateful, and encouraging others, you don't have time to shut down, and you'll be well on your way to being the servant leader your team desperately, desperately needs. This is the hard attitude we have to have at this point in the season. Now, I hope that helps you. I know this process isn't easy, but the answers are. Honestly, the solutions have to be simple because the choice to be a servant leader is so hard. But once you choose to play hurt with passion, with love, with energy, you are well on your way to servant leadership. Good luck on these closing weeks of the season, NFA Nation, and I want to encourage you to be looking for NFA camps coming up in your region at nationalfootballacademies.com. We'd love to meet and serve you in your efforts to get better. We'll see you next week after your victory.